In this segment is Delegate John Paul Hott out of the 85th. That's Hampshire. Also, he owns Hott Disposal Services. Delegate, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Run Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob, John, and Bill.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here today. One quick correction. Represent Grant and Tucker counties, not Hampshire.
Did I say Hampshire?
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies. I misspoke.
Okay.
I'm even looking at your page that says Grant. So
Okay.
let's chalk up one on the idiot column for the host. Yeah. Have you had any adventures with delivering babies yourself, John Paul?
Well, appreciate the ask there. I'm a proud parent of 4 children and got to go through that whole process with my amazing wife. And the agreement was when the 4th child was scheduled to be born that they were going to let me participate in the delivery process. And unfortunately, there was a small complication, and they sent me back up to the head of the table, so I didn't get to actively be a part of the delivery. But after watching that happen 4 times in an emergency situation, I would be at least one notch above nothing. So
Well, that counts. So,
yeah.
I got to cut the umbilical cord on son number 2. The first one was a C-section, so that was a totally different story. But, yeah, you never forget that stuff, and after seeing your wife go through that, you lose any of the false premise that you're the tougher one of the two of you, because that's some stuff to go through, man.
Agreed.
Let's talk about Certificate of Need. You use it in West Virginia in many different places. I don't mean you specifically, but you may as a business owner. Yesterday we were dealing with the healthcare end of things, but it applies to many different businesses, including waste management, trash hauling, and such. And that is your business, John Paul. Can you tell us about that and how Certificate of Need works in the trash industry?
Absolutely. So it is commonly thought right off the bat when you say CON, Certificate of Need, everyone focuses on health care. But another segment, I'll just call it the 3 T's, right? It's trash, it's taxi, and it's towing. And so my world in Grant County is the trash. And basically the process is that you would go to the Public Service Commission. You would define an area, submit an application, get your business registered. You'd advertise and have to figure out the rates. So without their blessing, without them agreeing that there is a need for service, you cannot provide such service in West Virginia. Once you have a defined area, you're going to need to heavily engage a competent legal team that knows and understands this, because it's a very specialized form of the law. You're also going to have a CPA involved who understands and works specifically in the Public Service Commission arena. And then lastly, you're going to need a bank who knows and understands trash hauling so you can structure the debt to move forward in it. So the struggle is that they need to ensure that everyone is getting fair, and the key point, I think, is reliable service. So I'm Grant County. And basically, if you can picture the Allegheny front, that's my cutoff. We go the county line to Mineral, we go to Hardy, and we go to Pendleton. So that means we provide service, what I'm going to call door service, and that means really more like curb service on every county, state, city maintained road. So the good news is everyone's afforded trash service, and everyone's afforded that trash service for the exact same rate residential, whether you're making a stop every 50 feet or, in my case, many times, because Grant County and Potomac Highlands is very rural, we may drive a mile plus commonly between stops. So obviously it's a rule of large numbers. The stops that are close together are getting the same rate as the stops that are well far apart. And it's a balance between the two, right? Where some of the stops you're able to make money, some of the stops there's no way that you can make money. It all gets blended out, and it works. There's a lot of the talk just about, hey, let's just eliminate the CON, and people don't realize how much of our state that affects or how much it costs to get into the business. It's a process, at least when I went through 10-plus years ago, that to get your certificate, and I bought a current certificate. So to do that was 6 months plus process to get all the operating agreements in place. And in that time period, as you can imagine, the legal fees, the accounting fees, you're not tens of thousands of dollars, you're way north of $100,000. And that's not just buying the certificate, that's just in your fees to get everything structured and established so that it is acceptable. So it works. They define my rate to the penny. They tell me exactly what I can charge for residential customers. And it is reviewed every 6 months by the Public Service Commission. And the reason for the review of it is so that they can see what, if any, adjustment needs to be made to the fuel surcharge. So rewind back 10 plus years ago, and average diesel fuel was less than $2.50 a gallon. And during the last 4 years, we were paying nearly $5 a gallon. So they look at that. They look at the projected fuel costs. They adjust the rate. Customers never call in and complain when it goes down 10 cents or 25 cents because the fuel was falling. We only get the calls when it goes up.
Sure.
And we have to explain to the customers we have nothing to do with the rating.
Yesterday on the program, we had Delegate Evan Worrell on, and he is after a complete repeal of CON in the healthcare field. He didn't mention an interest in the other areas. Would you support a CON repeal in its entirety in the healthcare field, John Paul?
I would not.
Would you support a partial one?
The reason for that simple is that one of the three largest employers in my district is a critical care hospital, and I am trying to do as much research as I can, talk to them, talk to other entities. I do have the concern that I think is valid, that there are services there that are profitable. There are services for which the reimbursement doesn't allow them to even break even. And I think the easy argument about that is I want them to be able to continue to be a full service facility, and I don't want to see those profitable services leave if we would eliminate the certificate of need for health care.
Now, there is at least one delegate that I'm aware of that is thinking about submitting legislation to eliminate the Public Service Commission. You explained the Public Service Commission's role in regards to your business and trash hauling. Is the PSC in the way of business, or does it aid in business?
Well, that's a challenging question. I would put it this way. They're seeing that there's reliable service. They're seeing that it's done at a reasonable rate. And I think once they are in force and operating, I cannot imagine how we would peel back those layers to get it there. Because candidly, look at myself as a trash hauler. If you eliminated the Public Service Commission tomorrow, which would eliminate the certificate of need immediately, I wouldn't be interested in picking up somewhere between probably 25 and 35% of my customers, because either I'm going to have to charge them a significantly more rate, a significantly higher rate, or stop providing them service.
Bill?
Good morning, Delegate. And that's exactly the same argument that's been used in the Eastern Panhandle, that it's if there was not a CON, there would be sections of the county, Berkeley County, that would have a lot of competition. There'd be other sections of the county that would have no service whatsoever. So the CON plays a valuable role. At least that's in the telling of the various groups here. Going back to Public Service Commission for just a second. Recently, some of the water sewer issues that had been historically under Public Service Commission has been shifted now to the County Commission. Is that trend going to continue with other things such as trash hauling?
I don't think so. I think that it's a totally different animal in that, as I view that, I'll go to what I understand, and what I understand is Grant County there, the city of Petersburg, they process all the clean drinking water and then sell it to the county. So it's all being done from a single source and site, and so it's able to be more properly instituted and set out there for the counties to have some more control over that, where there's other parts that the PSC is involved in, that just it's much more diverse. It's a much more complicated issue. Figuring out how to meter water and sell it is although a complicated process, in a business model, it's a more simplistic process.
Going back to CON for just a second, we've been following with a great deal of interest, again, the Eastern Panhandle, the CON and the efforts to repeal it for the last several years, both from the hospitals and also from a hospice perspective. My sense is there is more meat to this battle than we've had in years past, and the threat of repealing CON is much greater than it has been in recent years. Do you get that sense?
I would agree with that completely. And if we're going to be having total candor, right now is the time to do it right. The delegate cycles every 2 years. This is not an election year. There is a heavily weighted Republican majority, and I think if there was a time that it had a chance to get done, it would be this session.
John Gilstrap.
Good morning, John Paul. I am a free market guy, and I have a really hard time. I actually used to be in the trash service too, not at your level. I worked for Waste Management. I was a corporate guy. Every businessman would love to have a state-protected monopoly. I mean, what a great way to do business, because you don't have to worry about the competition. So when you say that if the CON went away, I forget exactly what the number was. I think you said 25%. That might be high. But of your current customer base would be unattractive to you, and you'll be not interested in servicing them. Okay, somebody else would. And isn't that good? I mean, isn't that good for service and for competition and for quality and everything else to have that level of competition?
So I appreciate you bringing that up, because I can't speak to all the trash haulers, but I'm going to speak specifically to the area that I have a certificate for. I am in a competitive environment. Even in rural Grant County, West Virginia, there are 2 certificated haulers. So I have to not only run a good, fair, appropriate business model. If I don't, my customers have another choice. So first of all, I'm regulated exactly what I could charge the customers. And then secondly, if I don't provide them with consistent, reliable service, they have an option. So I think that's probably maybe what you would define maybe as the best of both worlds. As far as it goes for the consumer, I'm not thrilled about it as a business person, because I'm under the auspices of the Public Service Commission telling me what I can charge, telling me that I have to provide service to every single customer on a city, county, or state-maintained road. But at the same time, if I don't do so in an appropriate way, they can pick up the phone and they can call the other certificated hauler for Grant County and have them pick up their trash.
Well, how is that not an argument for the dissolution of the Public Service Commission, and just go, if we have 2 haulers, we can have 4 or 8? Probably not. I mean, the area can only support so many, but you have, as I understand it now, there's this extra layer, very expensive layer to get the certificate. If you take that out, which is a barrier to entry, you'd have even more competition and more choices for people. Isn't that good? I mean,
I think that, yeah, I would agree that there's a side of that argument that is absolutely reasonable. I think the concern was, if we go back in time in West Virginia, when it was commonplace that people just simply disposed of trash in a hole, in a hollow, they burned it, and our state had a major problem with litter. So that same customer now who can get trash service for, let's say, residential trash service for $27 a month, they would maybe have to pay $50 or more. It starts to become cost prohibitive on people with a fixed income. And what are they going to do with the trash then? They're probably not going to be having it properly disposed of. So there's that side of it, that if we're going to keep our state as litter-free and as clean and as clear as possible, those people need to be able to have reliable service at an affordable cost. So it's not just the reliable service, but they need to be able to do so at affordable cost. So if you're not looking at the total business model there, you're going to see a significant increase on those outliers for customers. I don't disagree with you. Someone would probably step forward and provide that service, but at what cost? You buy a trash truck today, you can't buy one for $300,000. What you have to pay for my guys on the back for a fair wage, their health insurance, their retirement, and that truck operates at about 4 miles to the gallon of diesel fuel. It's very tough business. And at the end of the day, we're probably making about 10% profit on that residential customer, which is not a lot in a business model for a truck. I've got one in the shop right now that may need $10,000 worth of motor repair.
John Paul, a lot of us are trying to differentiate the subtleties of this particular argument, and with the trash hauling, you've invoked the Public Service Commission several times. For the medical side, medical health side, including hospice, they're not under the Public Service Commission. Is there an umbrella group they're under?
Well, there is. I'm not as familiar with that entity because they do have to obtain that certificate to be able to have the services that they provide. So I would have to better understand that. Not an area of my expertise.
I want to go to the other T's. This is the first time we've actually talked about taxis and towing. Is it like a medallion system like you have in the cities? Is it kind of the same thing in order to be a taxi?
It is. And the only reason why I have familiarity with that is every time I get my statement from the Public Service Commission, it always has trash, it always has taxi, it always has towing in it, and I can see the base of their rates on each one as it's determined and what, if any, fluctuation there is in it.
Can you operate a semi trash hauling and taxi service at once, where while you're picking up trash, you're also picking up a person to taxi to maybe another stop along the way? Kind of double down?
I think not.
You can tow a school bus.
John Paul Hott, our guest here on the program, out of the 85th. Does the certificate of need work in the same way for commercial hauling as it does for residential hauling, John Paul? Or are you in both, and is there a whole different permitting process for either?
Yes and yes to both of those. So you have three forms of trash service in the state of West Virginia. You have residential, you have commercial, and you have industrial. And so the certificate that I have allows me to provide all services. So thinking about me stopping along the curb, two guys get off the back of the truck, they physically pick up the bags of trash, they throw them in the back. The next stage of that would be what we call dumpster service. My containers happen to be rear loading, so you back into them. You hook a cable, you winch it up, it dumps it in the back of the hopper, you sweep it in. And then lastly, the industrial would be like a self-contained unit. And that unit, as you would put the trash into it, would provide the compaction. And I don't have the ability to winch those up onto a truck. I can provide roll-off service, which is more defined as the industrial type. But there's two of those units. One of them actually compacts the trash, which I don't do, and one of you simply load it, and then we take a winch cable and pull that up onto a trailer, take it, dump it off in bulk, and then return that container back to the customer.
Who owns the landfill you take it to, and who negotiates the tipping fees or determines the tipping fees?
So where I have two options. One is a transfer station, and that's defined as a Region 8 Southern transfer station, and you simply take it there, you offload it, and then another carrier loads it onto tractor trailers. And in my area, that goes to the Tucker County landfill. We take almost probably 95% of all of our trash to the Tucker County landfill, and that is a regulated site, and that site charges, just for easy mathematics, I could take it to the landfill site for about 50% of the cost what I could take it to the transfer. So to try to control cost, we take everything to the landfill and unload it, and that's about a 40-couple-mile one-way trip for me. But it makes sense to control the cost, keep it at a reasonable rate for the customers. I've got big enough trucks that we can do that. And so either spot is a regulated site in West Virginia, and they set the rate and send it to me. And I think they go through a similar process if they want to do a rate revision.
Delegate Hott, thank you so much for this information this morning. Very helpful.
Good.
Thanks, John Paul.